Right, so today I want to talk about specifically one of these tweets and to a lesser degree the response to, or actually to more of a degree, the response to the tweet. So it was last Sunday, August 11th, that Elizabeth Warren tweeted out increasing taxes on gun manufacturers will reduce gun and ammunition sales and bring in new federal revenue that we can use for both gun violence prevention and enforcement of existing gun laws. Together we can hold gun manufacturers accountable. And Donald Trump Jr. actually responded, happy that someone close to the president would be so awake on this issue that um, he says, at least you admit that overtaxing companies crushes them. Now take the next logical step. It also decreases tax revenue, and that's another issue in and of itself. But Pocahontas plans are what you get when you give lectures for a living but never actually do anything in the real world. Now, the main thing I wanted to talk about in this video is number one, the gun control aspect of it, which I've kind of already talked about, but more importantly, the aspect of higher, overbreaching taxation, destroying business, destroying individuals. And on the one hand, the left will argue for it, claiming that it's the answer to income inequality and everything under the sun, basically. But on the other hand, they make arguments like this, like he says, basically admitting that extremely high taxes or even higher taxes, I don't think that taxes on gun manufacturers are any higher than another manufacturer, so maybe slightly, but I don't know the exact number, so don't quote me on it. But they're admitting that extremely high taxes it destroys companies. But on the other hand, you have the left who always wants to drastically increase taxes for everyone, individuals, corporations, anything. So it's like I always talk about the fact that people people like in the middle will always argue, oh, there isn't really much of a difference between the left and the right, and I'll laugh at that. And that number one, the standard that either side is held to is completely different, and number two, um, the left contradicts itself all the time. Like it, it's off the charts when they're trying to make arguments for whatever positions or policies they're wanting. And the right doesn't do it. I mean, they do it a little bit, but they don't do it nearly as much, like nearly as much. And part of the reason why is that the right is held to such a higher standard in the media that when you're on the right, you need to be able to make better arguments, because if you don't make better arguments, well, the biased media is going to go after you for it. And part of the reason why the left is so bad at this may not be that their ideas are like way, way worse, which I think they're quite a bit worse, but part of the reason might be that the media never checks them on their biases, their arguments. They'll always defend them. So I think that is the one way that the social media and the bias and the media bias benefits the right, is that it does make people on the right be much more better, and they have more well thought out arguments. And it's something that the one way that it hurts the left is that it makes their arguments be a lot less thought out, a lot less checks, or with a lot less checks and bounds. So um, that is one big aspect of this. The other aspect is the gun control aspect of it, that they're willing to do whatever it takes to basically ban guns. I don't know if banning guns is the right way to put it, but pretty much whatever they want, or whatever they're willing to do is it it has no bounds. It has no nothing is going too far when it comes to the left in gun control. So considering that they know that they pretty much can't pass, I mean, they could try, but it's going to be pretty hard to pass stricter gun control laws. Their solution seems to be, let's just jack up the taxes, which technically they could do, but um, they wouldn't be able to do it unless they're in power to begin with. And even if they do it, there's nothing to say that whatever gun company is out there couldn't just move their head offices or move their operations as a whole outside the country, and then they're screwed. So Technically, then they could put in tariffs, but again, the left tends to be big on free trade, so that would just be contradicting themselves. Again, which, again, like I said, the left seems to be able to do with an uncanny ability, but that's about all as far as this video goes. I just wanted to make another point of the left, when making their arguments for literally anything, they contradict themselves. Like, I can't think of an argument the left makes that is very important to them that they don't contradict themselves on, like climate change, with the whole national debt issue, the whole increasing taxes on the rich, again, with this idea that it's greedy for the rich to want to keep more of their money, but it's not greedy for the poor to want to steal more of their money. Corporations, they're always for increasing regulations on corporations, but yet they want the government to have as much power as possible. Those are just a few things off the top of my head, but they contradict themselves in every way possible. There's a lot of probably neocons that do that, but a true conservative doesn't really do that. Like, I mean, true conservatives have issues, but they're not nearly to the extent of these leftists, and it's something that people really need to wake up to, because the big difference, the other big difference between the left and the right, and the big difference between the centrist view of the left and the right, is that the centrist view of the left and the right is that they're pretty much the same, and that's so not true. And why I always talk about this is that elections are generally decided by people who, I mean, they're always decided by people who aren't going to vote one way or the other no matter what. And if you have this belief that both sides are equally as bad and good in every way, shape, or form, well, then you have a biased view of, you have a wrong view of things, because it's not true. So I'll leave it there. I don't want to talk too much about this issue, but the big takeaway point is that the left, I don't know, like, if they don't even realize that they're doing this, or they don't care, because people on the left, you understand that whenever you make an argument with people on the left, I mean, I've noticed this, is that you can usually contradict yourself without them even pointing it out. Usually, I mean, sometimes they will, but usually you can do that without them even doing it, partially because, and if you do it, they'll usually have done it in the exact same way. So I'll leave it there. If you liked the video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.